Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome to Project Console, episode 41. What's a Wii U? And before we get into our topics, I'd like my panelists to introduce himself.
Hello, Mr. Red Fox. I have a channel called, also called Mr. Red Fox, but typically I have a podcast called BS Busters. Um, but I'm glad to be a guest on this podcast. So, hello.
Hello. This episode, What's a Wii U, will be focusing on the Wii U, a retrospective on what Nintendo did right, what they did wrong. It's at least in recent history, this is probably one of Nintendo's most controversial consoles. Their controversial console next to the Virtual Boy. Um, so leading up to the Wii U, there were tons of rumors on what the Wii U was going to be called. For example, is it going to be called one? This one was really weird, but like one rumor was said that it was going to be called the Wii Stream or something like that, and Michael Pachter, the the so-called gaming analyst that ends up getting a lot of things wrong, is talking about how it's going to be an HD Wii. Um, because one of the biggest criticism Nintendo got during the seventh generation was that their console was not
That's
HD.
standard definition
Standard
versus
definite. Yeah, standard
HD, high
definition.
definition. Yeah.
High definition. When in reality, the PS3 and Xbox 360 were kind of faking it until they made it
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
HD
Yeah. If
stuff.
you didn't have an HD TV, it didn't fucking matter anyway.
Yeah, because it's like they were running like 540p, upscaling it, stretching it. Uh,
Yeah.
it's like 720p, 1080p in some cases. But yeah, it was that was one of the biggest criticisms of the Wii's. Like, it's not up to par with the power of the HD twins as the Xbox 360 and PS3 were called. It was. I noticed that the media always focused on those two consoles. Two consoles that were always fighting for second place, as if they were the only two consoles in the quote unquote console war.
Yeah.
Because think about the PS3 and 360, they represented the kind of game industry that the media wanted because they didn't want the sort of family friendly vibe. They wanted video games to be taken seriously, like movies. This is seventh generation is where you got a lot of the more
Cinematic
realistic,
stuff started going forward. Well,
cinematic
I do
stuff. And
have
go
just one quick interruption, just one quick an interjection. Um, I wouldn't say that's what the industry wanted. That was the narrative that the gaming media wanted to push.
Yeah,
Because the
that's
numbers
exactly
don't
right.
lie. The Wii outsold both of those HD twin consoles by a huge amount. So someone must have liked that shit, or it wouldn't have
Yeah,
sold. you know?
yeah. I mean that was the thing about the that generation was that like that's what I was trying to say. Um, is that the journalists or the media wanted to create a narrative about the gaming industry because they desperately wanted games to be taken seriously as a next to like movies and music. Like it's this grand experience. This is where you saw a lot of these realistic games with or realistic, pseudo realistic looking games with these big set pieces and these sort of like summer blockbuster uh, hits. For example, Uncharted the Uncharted series is probably a good example of that,
Yeah.
and, or a good example of sort of like this sort of pseudo realistic game acting as this sort of interactive summer blockbuster movie. Uh, you know, I mean, some might feel differently, but that's what they were going for. And so, yeah, there are various rumors pertaining to the controller and what the controller was going to do uh, and whatnot. Some of them are true, some of them, you know, well, of course, were just from way out there. But what were some of the rumors that you came across before the Wii U was announced?
And I remember that it was that Michael Pachter saying it was an HD Wii. Ironically, that's one of the few times that Michael Pachter was right. Functionally speaking, the Wii U was just like uh, a step forward for what they did with the Wii. And um, it was both streaming. It was streaming the game data to your gamepad and also streaming game data to uh, your whatever TV you were hooked up to. Um, I mean, I just remember the HD thing, and I mean, people were kind of happy about that. I mean, Nintendo's like Nintendo's always been. They always have their own way of doing things,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah,
So I
and
don't, I'm not like, oh my god, what's Nintendo doing? It's like Nintendo's gonna do whatever the heck they want to do, you know. Like I have no control over what they're gonna do with their consoles or how they're
yeah,
gonna do stuff.
yeah. And the thing is, obviously with the Wii, they were trying to go after a different audience,
Mm-hmm.
a more broader audience. They were going after people who didn't really get into video games because, in a way, the controllers have gotten a bit more complicated. People who haven't played video games in a while, and people who, probably weren't all that interested in video games, but
Yeah,
had a mild interest in it,
yeah.
and
They were. Oh, sorry.
didn't want to mess with the because these controllers over the years have gotten a bit
More
more
complicated.
intricate. Yeah, they've gotten
Yeah.
more complicated. They're a bit more intricate, and so you had this remote. I mean, it looked inviting. It looked like a TV remote that you just it had didn't have very many buttons. Of course, you had the nunchuck attachment that for third person or for character movement, stuff like that. There were games that only used the Wiimote without the nunchuck attachment. So the controller was really inviting. And then
Yeah,
you
I
know
mean, the Wii was basically built like it was designed to appeal to people who hadn't played a game since like Pong, since like the Atari, since the 80s.
yeah, yeah. And it was designed for families so they can have either like their grandparents or their parents or maybe other
Yeah,
family members play together. It was what it was designed so that people would play together. I mean,
it was
gaming.
the ultimate pick up and play console,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. Like what the Game Boy was for handhelds back in the day, the Switch was for console.
yeah,
Cuz um it wasn't intimidating.
yeah. I mean, contrary to popular belief, I mean, gaming has always been a social hobby. I mean, it was pretty so. Even when I was a kid, it was
Well,
somewhat social. Mainly pertaining to stuff like arcades and
yeah, I'm going to add a caveat to that. Arcades were social but remember, before kids took over arcades, the people who went to arcades were adults.
yeah,
Video games, when they came to the home, still you had adults playing them, and then kids would get into it. It's only in the mid late 80s when home console games started to get big that you had like it became something you did with your friends, and your parents would come and say, "I don't know what they're doing. I'm used to Pong and simple stuff." And like the games were start home console games were getting more complex, and then it became you're just doing it with your friends. So if your parents wanted to play with you, some people had the parents that were like, "Oh, I'll play video games with my kids," but most parents weren't doing that.
Yeah.
They try to play a game for a little bit, they'd fall in a hole, be like, "Fuck it, I'm done."
Yeah. 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 Well, yeah. That was like the beginning of games becoming slightly more complex. Uh, so, I mean, if you're used to playing Pong, and now you're playing Zelda, where it was just because Zelda at the time was a pretty big game
Yeah, it
to a
was
lot of
fairly
people.
complex.
Yeah, it's pretty complex. But so the second topic, the announcement. What was your what was your initial reaction to the announcement when you first saw it? They
It's
first
like,
unveiled the Wii
okay,
U at 2011. Yeah.
it's their next console. I'd never really been let down by Nintendo hardware before, so I was like, it's cool.
Um, I I liked when I first saw it. I liked their approach. I like what they were trying to do because one of the biggest criticisms of the Wii was that Nintendo was focusing way too hard on the casuals, not enough on the hardcore gamers. See, the
Yeah,
problem with only focusing on the hardcore gamers is that aren't really a lot of them compared to casuals, people who play games, uh, somewhat regularly, uh, to semi regularly. People who probably only purchase about one or two games a year. That's that's
that's
there's a
the vast
larger
majority of
pool.
people. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the vast majority of people. There's a larger pool there with casuals than there are with the hardcore. That
yeah.
sure they might buy several games throughout the year, but
That's
you
only
know,
like being charitable. That's only between 15 and 20%, and I'm being liberal with that estimation. It's probably less than that of what you would call hardcore gamers. The
yeah,
vast majority of people who play games might buy one, two, maybe three games a year, and they're good.
yeah,
But
yeah,
Nintendo created an entirely new market with the Wii because they had like what I just described. Those are like your average casual gamer. They might get FIFA, Madden, maybe a Call of Duty, and they're good for the next year.
yeah,
Nintendo got people that bought a Wii, got Wii Sports, maybe got one other game, and they got nothing else for the entire generation.
yeah,
Ultra
yeah,
casual,
yeah. That was
ultra casual.
one of the things that people were pointing out about the Wii. Is like, oh well, they had fun with it and ended up in the closet. It just sat there.
Just pull it
Um,
out every once in a while to play, some Wii bowling or Wii Sports, and maybe one other game. But I mean, I'm
mhm.
gonna keep it 100% though. A lot of the party games on the Wii, even if they were multiplats, the most fun version of that party game was on the Wii.
Yeah, yeah. Um, because of obviously the motion controls made it feel more interactive, and I mean the Mario Kart just never stopped selling. It never stopped selling. Like it would be in
To be fair,
the
there were
top
some really
20.
good. No, sorry, go ahead.
It was in the top 20 at least every every month.
Yeah, that's true. And to be fair, for the Wii, I mean, if you were a hardcore gamer like myself, there always was, if you were willing to dig, there always were some really good second and third party exclusive for the Wii where someone actually put some effort into it and it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
Like people like to make the assumption that it was all shovelware and a lot of waggling around. There were some legitimately good games for the system, like Mad World, like
No More Hero.
No More Heroes, No More Heroes 2, like you know, Opuna, like Boom Blocks 2. Like there were good games on the system. And I mean, like people are like, well, there was shovelware. Well, every successful console has tons of shovelware. As a matter of fact, that's one of the hallmarks of being a successful system is that there's shovelware on it. You have a console that doesn't have any shovelware on it, like almost everything is just quality or first or second party. System probably didn't sell enough units.
Yeah, 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 probably. Um,
Like there's no
but
shovelware on the Virtual Boy.
yeah, the thing about so yeah, my reaction was when I saw the announcement of the Wii U. I was like, yeah, that's interesting. I like the idea of sort of like trying to combine the having that option for more core gamers and casual gamers. Before we get to how that ended up going, I noticed the media's reaction. They all looked confused. Or a lot of the people I saw looked confused. They were like, "Well, what is this?
They were like,
Just an
"What the fuck
attachment?"
is this shit?"
Yeah, it's like, "Is this an attachment to the Wii?"
Yeah.
I know that the stock Nintendo stocks went down because everybody thought the thing that gets me is like when you see the commercial, you could tell that the
The
console.
marketing team didn't know how to market it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They the problem is they only focus on the controller, and I know that's the biggest part of how you interact with the console. But people want to know what the box is going to look like too. If it's a different box, if they would have had the box and the controller next to each other, it would have caused a lot less confusion. Because again, people were looking at it as like, is this another attachment to the Wii?
I
Um,
understand that that's your idea, Kenoshi, and I know that's what the end you want to go for, but I don't think people were that obtuse. I think ultimately that um, you had the media, most media didn't want to understand what the console was. Um, I guess this kind of would be a segue into your next topic. Like most of the media didn't want to know what it was. People had an axe to grind because they it wasn't what they expected because people who have no say in a billion-dollar company thinks that the company needs to cater just to what they want. Um, and which is, I mean, that sounds asinine. Um, and people just want an excuse. The real issue is that people just want an excuse to just shit on a company.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that's all it was. Because I mean, like I've owned a business. I've sorry, owned. I own a business. I've done business type stuff, and not in the tech industry, but I've done stuff, and I mean, you can look at. I mean, I remember the reveal for the Switch, and I mean the Wii U, and I was like, okay, I get what they're going for.
yeah,
Like they recognize that the Wii was very ultra casual and they can't double dip in that well because they knew the numbers better than we do because they actually were getting those numbers of okay, we're selling Wii's but people aren't buying games.
yeah,
Okay, we need something that's going to appeal to the hardcore, but we're Nintendo, we can't go ultra hardcore.
yeah,
So they did the best they could and they tried to make a console to appeal to the hardcore. And that actually was a good move. The problem, and this is where I guess go to the segue here. The problem was they didn't what they should have done and what they did do are two completely different things. What they should have done was stretch the Wii out for another year, maybe support it with a few maybe one final hurrah game of decent quality. Okay, and then they should have been working on some stuff, first party stuff, strong first party stuff to launch with the Wii U, and they didn't do that. If they had
yeah,
had some strong quality. If they had a 3D Mario, if they had 3D Mario World at launch on the Wii U, I guarantee the Wii U still would have. The Wii U would probably still be a thing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem is that they put it out and it didn't have a strong first party lineup, and they trusted third parties to fill the gap. They're like, because third parties, the bullshit excuse that third parties always use is we can't compete against Nintendo platforms, Nintendo first party games, which is BS because uh, you know, like every other console gen, they've put some type of game on a Nintendo console, and it might not have sold as much as the first party games, but they made money. All right,
Yeah.
that's like saying, hey, this school is a highly seeded school and highly seeded college school, like let's say college football, and so we're not going to compete against them, even though we're in the same conference, because we'll lose. Well, unfortunately, you're in the same conference, so you're going to have to compete against them anyway.
Yeah.
I guess you're going to have to wait until everyone graduates and they start from scratch all over again.
Yeah. One of the and before we get into the next console, to me, I kind of thought this was silly because I mean, at the time, um, I think a lot of companies get criticized for this now, but I mean, it's silly because everybody does this, and everybody's been doing this. But one of the big criticisms, for the audience that's seeing the sizzle reel, is when they showed off the sizzle reel for the third-party games. Later came out that was Xbox 360 footage
Yeah,
of those games, and it's
yeah,
just kind of like everybody, everybody uses these. As they're called, bull shots, or these, vertical slices, usually running on uh, developer kits, PCs. Uh, so I just thought, thinking about it now, it just seems a bit silly that they were that was such a big criticism.
I mean, they were showing. Okay, they were showing consoles. They were showing footage of the game running on consoles that were close in power to what the Wii U was. The Wii
Yeah,
U was more powerful than the PS3 and the Xbox 360. So actually, they weren't showing you a bullshot. A bullshot is when they show you it running on the development PC,
yeah,
and they're like, "Yeah, this is real gameplay footage." Yeah, but not running on the fucking hardware that it's going to be running on.
yeah,
Nowhere
yeah,
close. Um, yeah. I mean, let's keep it real, man. It was all just people just finding reasons to bullshit and complain about shit. That's all it was.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Uh, but yeah, let's talk about the reveal. The reveal. It's 2012. Nintendo announced the console, or not announced it, but they revealed more about the uh, the Wii U, uh, the lineup, the game lineup, the release date. They actually showed the controller next to the box, uh, which again, I and going back to what you said about people just complaining for the sake of complaining. Honestly, you kind of have to be somewhat dull to not realize that it was, especially as the year went on, that it was, it, you know, that it was a console and not just some attachment to the Wii.
Yeah.
Because common sense would tell you it's like, how is that little controller supposed to make the Wii more powerful? Just wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, it was people playing dumb in order to have something to bitch about.
Yeah,
I mean, there are legitimate complaints about the Wii U, but that is not one of them.
yeah. And like you said, one of the biggest problems with the Wii U was they didn't they didn't focus on their own first party lineup, and you know there were a lot of third party companies for whatever reason that were just backing out. I heard rumors and whatnot, which again I think is BS. As we will get to later, uh, about why they couldn't put their games on the Wii U. Um, Something about lack of power. I know with the Metro developers, they had something.
Well, that was EA, because EA was supposed to publish that, and they pulled out. They were like, "Yeah, we're not going to pay for this to come to this console."
Yeah, same with Crisis 3 because it came out that Crisis is running beautifully on the Wii U, but we're not allowed to we're not allowed to release it. So
Yeah,
and something
yeah,
about and then a couple of years later when the PS4 and Xbox One were out, something about RAM.
yeah,
It was
which was
which was
BS.
BS too. Because
Yeah, I mean, like every excuse
I
that they
think
made.
I think the Batman games were even on the Switch, but again, we'll talk about
Yeah,
that
I mean,
later.
like, look, man. Any excuse that could be made for why third parties didn't put their games on the console is complete and total bullshit. When you factor in that, like, okay, we can't put it on the console because the units it's not selling well enough. You guys supported the PS3 when it was selling like shit.
Oh yeah,
Well, the lack of power. You guys have put. You guys supported the Wii. The Wii was dog shit compared to the PS3 and the Xbox 360. So that's bullshit. Well, you just don't want to do it.
yeah, yeah.
That's all it is. Just say we don't want to do it, and then we can move on.
I would have been fine, and it's something I've said on past podcasts. I would have been fine if these companies came out and said, "Look, it is not in our best financial interest to put these games on the Nintendo Wii U, on the Wii U. We don't feel like we will, get a proper return on our investment." Like if they would have came out and said something like that, I would have been like, I would have been upset, but I would have been like, yeah, I could see whatever. At least you're being honest. You know, when you go on talking about, oh well, it doesn't have enough RAM, or it's not powerful enough, or we're having issues with the CPU. It's like you said, they supported the PS3, through and through, with its convoluted cell architecture, which, you go back and listen to old podcasts of, any interview of various developers, um, they'll tell you how much hell they had to go through to get their game out on launch
Yeah,
on the PS3.
but all the consoles have issues. The Xbox 360 had an issue with its memory. The PS3 had the cell architecture. The Wii just was underpowered. Like if we're sitting here saying, "Oh man, this console didn't do this. It's got issues." Every console has an issue.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
You want to
that's
develop
why,
and not have issues? Guess what? Go PC solely,
like
and then
go
you're still gonna have issues.
go back to a lot of these consoles, their first year, uh, when it came to the kind of games that came out. A lot of those games, a lot of those first year games had some serious technical problems, or they didn't look very good, and
Or they were glorified tech demos, like the
glorified tech.
Order 1886.
Yeah, glorified tech demos or games that were thrown together because they needed to get something at launch. So it's just kind of like, yeah, yeah. The first year is always pretty rough when it comes to consoles. And
I mean, say whatever you want to about Nintendo. When they do a tech, when you get a first year tech demo from a Nintendo, typically speaking, not 100%, but 90% of the time, it's gonna be good. Like F-Zero is a tech demo for Mode 7. It's also
yeah,
really good.
yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah. Um, but the for the most part, for me, I the reveal wasn't that bad, but I know in the greater
You can see
gaming
why
sphere,
people were upset, but it
yeah,
wasn't like, oh my god, Nintendo came in my house and slept with my girlfriend in front of me, and then slapped me in the face, said, "Smell my finger" as they walked out, and said, "Also, I got the clap, so now you got the clap," and laughs while they drive in their convertible with the top down in their convertible car, laughing the entire way.
yeah,
They didn't do that. It wasn't that
the
bad. Calm
the
down.
yeah, for the most part, it went over like a wet fart. I mean, you know, obviously nobody was happy. It was, they were expecting gold and glimmer. I guess, I mean, I know, it's it was the reveal of the console in the first year. Like I said before, the first year's always pretty rough. Uh, but I don't know. It was just the Wii U, just some of the things Nintendo was saying or doing. It was just that console, that generation to was the whipping boy.
Yeah,
Um,
that's all. People just want an excuse because Nintendo basically bet on the Wii. The Wii was basically a Super GameCube, but people forget the GameCube was actually a really fucking powerful console. It was just standard definition. And let me let you in a little secret: if you got HD upscale cables for your Wii, turn to an HD console, and you hooked it
yeah,
up to an HD TV, it was HD, and you had
yeah.
games on it that were 60 frames per second, which we still can't get on modern consoles today. So D's nuts, bitches. Anyway, yeah, I mean, just people just want an excuse because Nintendo came out with a sub HD console that sold gangbusters, outsold the Xbox 360 and the PS 3. It had low development costs. Nintendo made a fuck ton of money from it. Plus, they were making money hand over fist with the DS and eventually the 3DS. And they just didn't want to. People they didn't fit the narrative. They weren't going for a huge amount of power. They weren't going for ultra realistic games. How can this game that is essentially, how can the system that is essentially a toy for the family do better than my Dude Bro machines?
Yeah.
It's like,
Uh,
well, because sometimes people just want something that can pick up and play that's easy to get into, and they
one
don't
of the
care
things that
about Dude Bro stuff.
one of the things I heard about one of the things I heard during the seventh and eighth generation, especially the eighth generation, is like people wanted Nintendo to grow up. Like that was the big push. They wanted their games to grow up. It
Grow
was
with
it
them.
was
Yeah, I heard that a
grow with
lot.
them.
Yeah,
It
I
was
want my games to grow with me.
look at Naughty Dog. Look at what happens when companies grow with you.
The
They
games
turn
get
into a pile
worse.
of shit.
Yeah,
Sorry,
the games get worse.
hot
Like,
take. I
oh,
think
this
not.
game is so much fun, but it's trash.
Uh,
It's grown
hot
up, it's so mature, but it's terrible.
hot take. I think Naughty Dog is a shitty company. It didn't exactly go. I hated the fact that they left that the whimsy of like Jack and Daxter and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't have to make Jack and Daxter forever, but they
No, but
left that.
they could have appealed to all of them.
Yeah,
And
for
yet
for
they didn't.
for example, um, Insomniac made an M-rated game called Sunset Overdrive that has the whimsy of games like Spyro, of games like Ratchet and Clank, but still an M-rated game. So, that it's just
Yeah,
kind
it
of
also didn't
it's
sell that well because it wasn't on the PlayStation because that's where they built their audience. I mean,
yeah,
ultimately, here's what I think. I think that people just wanted an excuse to bitch and complain. People
yeah,
wanted an excuse and they got it. They Like, I'm not saying Nintendo is blameless. I'd say the biggest problem with the console is that they didn't support it with their with a strong first party lineup. Because every other successful Nintendo console has launched with a system seller.
Yeah.
Okay, something big where it's like, okay, there's not a lot of stuff, but these two games right here, you got to get them. And Nintendo didn't have that day one for the Wii. I mean, for the Wii
For
U.
the Wii U, yeah. I mean, of course they had Super Mario
3D
Brothers
World.
U,
I
or
mean,
Super
not Super Mario,
uh,
Super Mario Brothers U.
U, but people are looking for the next big 3D Mario game.
Yeah,
They're gonna
because
pick up the
people are
Wii U
shallow
or
and
the
they
P.
think casual gamers associate Nintendo now with 3D Mario games, forgetting that the 2D Mario games used to be some of the best shit in the world back in the day. you
Yeah,
know, like
yeah,
Super Mario World, the three Super Mario Brothers on the NES, Super Mario, what was the other one? Uh, you know, 3D Mario games were king back in the day. So people just being bitches, really. Just to be honest with you, I hate to say it like that, but they're just being bitches.
yeah, yeah. But in any case, anything else you'd like to say about the reveal before we move on to the next topic?
Uh, just this, it wasn't as bad as people were saying. If anyone
Yeah,
tells you that the Wii U reveal was the worst thing ever, no. Go watch the Xbox One reveal.
yeah,
That shit. Look, you want to see someone's career get destroyed in 2 minutes? Watch that shit.
yeah, yeah. Basically already touched on the Fallout because you know, that could have been, but yeah. So we'll move on to the pre and post launch. Things that were leading up to launch and things that happened after launch. Um, I know before the launch, third parties were starting to sing a different tune compared to that 2011 where they were like, "Oh yeah, we're really excited about putting our games in the Wii U,"
Yeah, they
and
always have
then
to say that.
they started slowly ducking out, slowly being like, "Yeah, we can't put these games on here because of excuse after excuse," and
Whatever bullshit they could pull out of their ass. Let's just be
yeah,
100%. We can't do it because it's not powerful enough. Actually, it's more powerful than the 360 and the PS3. Uh, shit. Well, the audience just isn't there. But you supported the PS3 when it was selling like dog shit. Uh, is that $100 bill on the ground?
yeah, that's exactly what happened with the PS3. Sony came in with a bag of money and said, "Hey, look, put a game on our system."
No,
It's like,
I meant the
okay.
$100 bill on the ground is a distraction so that they can run away while you're looking down. It's like, but you said you were gonna gotta go.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
so
basically that's all it really is. It's just bullshit that they say in order to. It was just a lot of bullshit excuses. That's all it was.
yeah,
That's it. It was just a lot of excuses because they didn't want to do it. And you know what? If they had just said, "Look, we don't want to support it," okay, and I've always been of the belief that they didn't want to support the Wii U because if Nintendo had support for that system, you would have had an industry where it would have been a completely mostly in a lot of it would have gone in a completely different direction, right?
yeah,
Because a lot of the shit that people do now in gaming wouldn't have been a thing, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
people would have said, "Oh, I actually have to focus on gameplay and not just pretty graphics. I can't do that."
yeah. But
That's my personal belief. I have no evidence to support it. That's just a supposition on my part. I could be wrong. Probably
yeah,
am wrong.
yeah. I remember people freaking out, being like, "Oh no, the Wii U's losing support. It's over. It's doomed. The console's doomed."
Yeah,
I mean, I guess in a way, from a commercial standpoint, it kind of was with you know, um, obviously financially speaking, they profited off of the Wii U, but
yeah,
they didn't sell nearly as much as they wanted to.
yeah.
Uh,
It's Nintendo's most least successful home console to date. But to be fair, uh, uh, it still was successful enough to get shovelware. So it wasn't that bad. If you got shovelware, you're not you know, if you have shovelware on your console, it's successful because some person who wants to do the minimum amount of effort can make money off of it, which means there's a big enough audience that they can do that.
yeah, yeah,
But you're right. It was just just people just bitching and complaining. In my opinion,
yeah, and
there are
it's
valid issues with it, but that wasn't one of them.
yeah, and the advertising when it came to the Wii U was pretty sad in my opinion. It
Yeah, it
was
wasn't good.
it was it was pretty bad. And they got the guy who did the PS3 ads, the early PS. Remember the creepy PS3 ads, the
They got that guy.
baby,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
they got
but
that
I
guy.
don't know who was in charge of marketing for the Wii U in America. But whoever they got, ooh boy, you fucked up,
Oh yeah, it was
y'all. I'm
pretty.
glad they fired those people because they
Yeah,
sucked at what their job was. You had one job and you couldn't even do that.
yeah, yeah. It's it was pretty bad. Um, they were trying too hard to, it was like they were trying to sell to families and stuff like that, and it's just like had none of the appeal that the Wii did when it had none of the appeal of the Wii ads, the
Yeah,
old Wii
because the
ads with
Wii ads
the
were simple and to the point, and it communicated what you were getting. Like it was
yeah,
like we would like to play. The we would like to play guys came to your house, played some games with you. It was pick up and play easy. The Wii U should have been more geared towards a hardcore audience, and then they should have geared that out towards being, more casual. But you
yeah.
know,
They should have had like separate commercials, kind of like what they've been doing with
for the
the
Switch,
yeah Switch.
like you have the family commercials, and then you have the more hardcore stuff. It's like, hey man, look at all this hardcore shit coming to this console. I
Yeah,
mean, look, man. But the joke's on everyone else because they essentially took a Wii U, they detached it from a console, made it about 30% weaker. The games run 30% shittier, and they sold it to them again, and they
yeah.
and they love it. So really, it's not the Wii U failed. It's just the people didn't get it, or were easily
Uh,
swayed by the gaming media. Which why would you be swayed by these dumbass people? These are the same people who buy, who would rather who are happy to lose features in series and then pay for it after the fact, exorbitant amounts of money.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why would I
That
listen to those people?
so
That's
I mean
stupid.
I mean what? So the Wii U was around for at least a good 4 years. No,
Let's say
5 year, 5 years
5 years.
roughly. So it was doom and gloom and boo hoo from the media for about 5 years about how Nintendo's dying and they're failing and indies won't save the Wii U and all this other stuff that I
Multi-billion
remember
dollar
hearing.
company. They're
Yeah,
rich as fuck, but they're going
it's
broke.
like it's over. It's over. Nintendo's a sinking ship. Um, you know, they really, they really just they really effed up with the Wii U. It's they need to knock it out of the park with this next console. It's just you know so we so we the Wii U I think sold 18 million. Well, let me go check to see what the final numbers are pertaining to how much the Wii sold.
I think it sold maybe I want to say 12 million around there.
And I thought like it was like 13 million. All right. Yeah, 13.56 million.
Okay,
Uh,
so
yeah.
it's not terrible. It's not terrible
Yeah.
for Nintendo. It's not good, but it's not like, oh my god. They made money off of it. We got
Yeah.
some good games for the system. We got Splatoon. Like really, I mean, in my opinion, the best version of Splatoon is on the Wii U.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Switch version of Splatoon is like less than
I mean,
the Wii U version of it.
it had a pretty high attach rate. You know,
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
made money off of that console. There were
obviously,
some good games on that console. There's also some
so
shitty ones like was that game from Tobunobu Itagaki, Devil's Third.
oh, Devil's Third, yeah, oh,
Everyone's like, it's
yeah,
not that bad. Come on, man. Y'all know this is some bullshit.
yeah.
Y'all know this console. Y'all
That
know this
game,
game is shit.
that game was delayed and it still came out pretty shitty.
Yeah, because they changed engines. Like in the last third of development, they switched engines. I'm like, because the game with the early engine of it didn't look that bad, but when they changed engines, it looked like dog shit. I'm like, why would you change engines? Why would you change engines midway? Like that's just stupid.
Yeah, that's like Final Fantasy 15, stupid. Wait, did they change engine? No, they didn't change engines tonight. There's another game I can't remember where they just switched engines mid development. I can't think of it. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, obviously the old adage, you buy Nintendo consoles for Nintendo games, was certainly true for the Wii U generation. So,
And that's what they
but
did. Like I said, it wasn't a terrible console. The people are like, oh, it's the worst thing ever. It's like, really? Ouya?
yeah, I mean, what it sells for like $700 brand new if you get it on eBay. So I
It's a
guess
good console.
it's a collectible now. Uh,
You know?
but I remember it was like 2016. They were like, yeah, the Zelda's not coming out Breath of the Wild because that was the big game. That was
Yeah.
essentially going to be the Wii U swan song.
And
This
it
big
still was the
game.
Swan song. They made it a cross generational release.
Yeah, that's when I saw. That's when I remember hearing the news about how they were delaying the game and how we basically suspected it was coming out on the. I
Both
don't even think.
consoles.
Yeah, both consoles. I don't even think we knew the name of the console at the time when they announced it. But I also remember it was like 2016 E3 where they were like, yeah, that was the only game they showed because that was the only game they had uh,
Yeah. And it was the
was
only game
ready to
anyone cared
show.
about. It's the only game anyone cared about. No one gave a shit about anything but Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
though in hindsight, there's so many issues with that fucking game. But it's a 3D Legend of Zelda, and Nintendo could shit in a box and say it's a 3D Legend of Zelda, and people would buy it because it's 3D.
yeah. But yeah, so 2017 rolled around. Um, Nintendo announced the Switch near the end of 2016. It was around October, and they had their big press event in January, and they did things differently with the Switch that they didn't do with the Wii U. They were actually coming out with first party games,
Yeah,
a lot of first party games, year one.
yeah, but let's add the caveat here. What they did was they took Wii U games and ported them over to the Switch.
Yeah, I mean
There was no there was
that's
no new stuff. It was just, oh, let's just take our old shit and port it to the new shit.
yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. They even ported a lot of their Wii U games to the Switch
Yeah,
with extra features that probably should have been on the Wii U.
yeah.
For
Like
example, Mario Kart 8.
Mario Kart should have had battle mode.
Yeah, Mario
at
Kart 8
launch.
Deluxe was a sore spot for a lot
Yeah.
of people, even including myself.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't buy it. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna buy this again.
I'm not going to support this nonsense. Oh yeah, oh yeah, and
Because I never
yeah,
was a huge fan of Mario Kart anyway. So
it's kind of funny because and it's been said, um, people were laughing at Microsoft and Sony for recycling a lot of their old games for their new console because they didn't have anything on the console that year, and it's like I think a few of us said it's like calm down, Nintendo might do the same thing if they know that it
they
works.
did it. They
they did
literally
that
did it.
they did that exact same
Um,
thing.
just a lot of fucking a lot of like a lot of like the same games, and that's one of the reasons why with the Switch I did not like a lot of games I haven't got on the Switch because I already own them on the Wii U, and some of them run better on the Wii U than the Switch.
Yeah, yeah, and the
Like,
and it's funny and oh yeah, and they charged for online with less features. Let's talk
yep,
about that for a second. So the Wii U, when it came out, it had a fair amount of features, online features that were free, free 99. You had a social media service that was not, you know, separated from the actual system, like Nintendo Switch app,
no
which
one
is kind of
fucking
crazy.
uses.
Yeah, it's kind of
Completely
crazy to
useless and
me.
no one uses.
Which is kind of crazy to me. So you have you have Miiverse, which was a really cool place to go and you know see the different artwork and maybe figure out you know uh, a spot where you're stuck in the game. Also had a web browser that you could go to.
That's really
Uh,
good.
yeah, and it had some multitasking where you could go into the web browser, go to the FAQs or watch a YouTube video and figuring out how to do something. And then you have, what else? You had YouTube, you had Netflix, you had Prime Video, you had Hulu.
Netflix, Hulu,
Yeah.
all types of cool shit.
And then you get the Switch and it's bare bones. It's like nothing. And, uh,
And they
I mean, it's
still
still,
have. There's still features that were on the Switch that don't. I mean, on the Wii U that don't exist on the Switch.
Switch. For example, the eShop on the Wii U I thought was far better organized and far, you know, useful than it is on the Switch. I think the eShop on the Switch is a clunky mess. It's a clunky mess. Uh, you know, so you have that. So it's like they basically stripped a lot of the functionality out of the Wii U, turned it into basically turned it into a handheld that can plug into your TV
Yep.
and sold gangbusters. It's on its way
Yep.
to outsell the PS2.
Everyone's like, "Oh, it's fucking amazing," and I'm like, "You dumbasses! You literally got a shitty, stripped down Wii U that you have to pay for extra features, most of which suck."
yeah, yeah. I just I don't know what happened. I no. You know what? I pretty much have a guess what happened. Obviously, they had investors breathing down their neck. They wanted to sell. They weren't selling as much Wii U's as they wanted to sell. You know, they weren't me. I mean, obviously they made profit, but they probably didn't make the profits that they wanted to make. They're like, we have this idea. Maybe we'll just cobble this together and hope for the best. There you go. You get the Switch. I actually have a Switch, by the way, and play it somewhat regularly. I have been playing it somewhat regularly,
I have a
but
Switch as well. I have not been playing it regularly, mostly because the shit that I really want to play hasn't come out yet.
and the thing is, while I do to a degree enjoy the Switch, you know, I'm not gonna pretend like there's nothing wrong with it.
It's the best thing ever. What? It doesn't hook you up with hot nine or 10 level women that come in your house and help you out, then cook you breakfast and leave.
Yeah, yeah,
It doesn't do that. It doesn't, cut you a nice whole check that doesn't bounce into your bank account every night. It doesn't do that. Oh, that's a shame. The way
yeah.
people treat it, you'd think it would do all that. I'm being facetious.
I mean, compared to the Wii U, you know, if you really focus more of it. Sorry, if you focus more on the idea of the Switch being a home console, compared to the Wii U, it's a few steps down in certain areas.
Yeah.
But if you play it as a handheld, mainly, that's how I play it. Compared to the 3DS, it's a pretty big step up, especially if
Oh
you have the
yeah, yeah.
OLED model. So
If you treat the Wii U, I mean the Switch, like it is the successor to the 3DS, it's amazing. If you treat it as the successor to their home console, it's disappointment. It's
yeah,
like, wow, this is kind of shit.
yeah,
I mean, and if you play it, and I mean, even as a home console, if you, even as a handheld, there are games that on the Switch that run like ass in handheld mode. So some games I can't even really play the way they want you to play it. Well, you can take this anywhere. Why would I want to drain my battery and play a game that's going to run like in the 20s frame per second and and getting hot as hell and struggling to run? Why would I want to do that?
yeah. I've also noticed. I was hearing somebody, I think it's Modern Vintage Gaming, talking about Xenoblade and the constant fluctuation between resolutions, which is something, if you notice, can makes people sick. So that's that could be annoying. But I mean, again, the Switch, uh, in a way, did something that the Wii didn't, and it kind of changed the landscape of gaming in the sense that there are a lot of companies creating these handheld computing devices, these gaming computer devices. Been seeing a lot more of those lately. You have the Steam Deck, which honestly I think is a
The superior
uh,
Switch.
yeah, just a superior Switch. It's like the gaming computer to a console pertaining to the Switch.
It's a
So
handheld gaming. It's a handheld PC console.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean it definitely did inspire a lot of a few things. So I mean I'll definitely give it that. I mean it's interesting to see these lower powered handheld gaming computers. But any final thoughts on the reincarnation of the Wii U?
Um, uh, the Switch, in my opinion, as I said, is an inferior Wii U. There are games that run like ass on the Switch that like ran better on the Wii U, even though functionally the Switch should be more powerful than the Wii U.
Yeah,
Case in point, for example, the you know, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 runs like shit in handheld mode on the Wii U. I mean on the
yeah,
Switch. But Xenoblade Chronicles X, which has way more shit going on,
yeah,
runs. I mean, it's not perfect, but compared the two compared to each other, X runs so much better on the the Wii U.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on with that. Like I don't, And when you mention this to people, they're like, "Well, it doesn't matter." It's like, yeah, but have you tried to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in handheld mode? It's on consoles, it's not that bad. But if you play that shit in handheld mode, it runs like hot buttered ass. I mean, terrible. Like,
Yeah.
don't say that. Oh, don't. I like that console. Okay.
That's a nice companion console to like your PC or your PS5 or Xbox Series X or whatever. But standalone console, I don't. I mean, if you just like Nintendo games, it's great for that. But you'll be missing out on a lot if you just have a Switch. I know everybody's not going to agree with that, but whatever.
I mean, the Switch is a nice companion console, but I think previous consoles, um, I think previous consoles that Nintendo had, if you were a Nintendo gamer, you'd be cool having it be your primary console. The Switch as a primary console stinks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is there any free topics you'd like to bring up before we close out the show?
Um, I mean, nothing except the Switch is overrated, and it's a great handheld, but as a console, it's kind of underwhelming. Um, I think a lot of the first party games for it just kind of feel half baked to me, um, or at least not to the Nintendo standard I'm used to. Like Mario Odyssey is the first 3D Mario game I've played once. Well, the second 3D Mario game I played once. I'm like, that's good. I don't need to play this ever again. Like you play 3D Mario once, you don't ever need to play that again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
3D
mean Mario
Mario
Odyssey.
or
You play
Mario
Mario
Odyssey.
Odyssey once, you don't ever need to play that again.
Yeah, I feel like I agree. I agree. I have not
Like
touched that game since I went through the main story or the main parts of the game.
whereas Mario 64, you can go back and just do new things in that game. 3D
Yeah,
World, 3D World, 3D World, Galaxy. Those are just a joy to go back and play.
yeah,
The level design in Odyssey is not as good as other 3D games because it's designed to be kind of a semi-open world sandbox. But you can only play in a sandbox for so long before it gets boring. Okay.
you can kind of just cheat your way to the end by
Well,
just
yeah,
blowing up all the moons. It's like, what is
because
that?
there's no direct way, like there's no direct design for how to get around the world. Instead you have to fight your way. Like it's designed so that any enemy you possess within reason, you should be able to get to where you have to get to, but that kind of stifles uh, creativity for the level design.
Yeah,
So it's like, okay, well, I can do this, but that doesn't really, sometimes too much freedom is not a good thing.
I mean, you can always learn those complex jumps that I don't know if you've ever seen those videos where
Oh
people just
yeah,
do
yeah,
these
where
ridiculous.
people throw the hat out and jump on the hat and all that shit. But I mean, I've done that. Like I've done that. I've done the shortcuts. I've done it the long way, the short way. After a while, it's just like this is trash.
Yeah,
It looks good, but it's not like you don't want to go back and play that again. Like I beat Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I'm like, okay, like I beat Breath of the Wild 3 times. I beat it one way, maxed out my magic. The other time my stamina. The second time I maxed out my hearts. The third time I just left the Great Plateau and went to Hyrule Castle, fought Ganon that way. It's just like these aren't like this isn't to the normal Nintendo standard.
yeah, yeah. Um, It's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing after this. But I mean, the Switch is sold pretty well. Uh, it says it's either on its way or about ready to pass the PS2. I think it's already passed the Wii. So yeah, it's doing pretty good. So they've had more time to actually think about their next platform.
Yeah,
So doesn't
I mean that's
necessarily have to
good.
feel like a rush job possibly, but
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the consoles feel like a rush job.
a lot have died. So I mean, we got a new president. So it's I don't know.
The new guy is not impressive. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm unimpressed with Furukawa. Um, and I know some people are gonna be like, "How could you say that?" It's an opinion. Fuck off.
Yeah, yeah.
People are allowed to have opinions.
I guess my final thoughts, free topic pertaining to this is yeah, the Wii U necessarily wasn't that bad. The combination of poor marketing and third party just stubborn third party not want to make the make their money on their own. Not want to rely on their own 2 feet to make a decent game for the Wii U, and you know, obviously media narrative control. Um, it's kind of funny because there are a lot of games that came out on the Switch that by third parties where um, where back in the day, they probably would have said, "Come on, run on the Wii U." Like Dune came out. All Borderlands games came out. I think the Batman games came out. The Batman games, those are funny because
They
those.
ported those games to the Wii. They ported those games to the Wii U.
Um, no, they ported the games to the. I'm talking about the. I think all the Batman games are coming to the Switch, even the latest one.
Arkham
Um,
City and Arkham Origin were ported to the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Origin were ported to the Wii U. What we
all
didn't
right.
get was Arkham Knight, but considering how shit that game ran on everything, I mean, I really
Yeah.
don't think that would have been a good thing to port to the to the to the Wii U.
Um, but yeah, that it was. I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was just kind of funny. A lot of these companies say, "Oh, our games can't run on the Switch," but the what's that game? The Metro games ended up coming to the Switch too, and that was one of the games they were like, "Oh, this can't work on the Wii U." It's like,
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
uh,
it's the bullshit. It's
yeah,
the bullshit that gets me. It's like, dude, okay, you don't want to do it. Okay, cool. Just don't lie to me.
yeah,
Don't lie to me. Don't bullshit me. Just let me know. Oh, I don't want to do it. Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah,
Just say, hey, I don't want to do it. Okay, cool. You know what? I respect that.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's like a girl. It's like a girl. It's like a girl saying, hey, instead of just saying, look, I don't want to date you. She's like, well, it's making excuses. Just say no.
yeah,
Just say I don't want to go with you, so you can stop wasting our time.
yeah,
I can stop wasting your time. You can stop wasting my time, and we can all go about our business.
yeah, yeah,
Shit. you know, or someone cheating. Like, oh, don't stay with somebody, and you don't want to be with them. If you don't want to be with someone, just let them know and move on. because then you're wasting people's time. And time, you can always make more money. You can't make more time.
Nope. I wish you could, but you can't. But in any case, um, where do you think they go from here?
Well, I mean, I tell you what I hope, but they're probably not going to do it. I hope, like, it would be a dream if Nintendo actually made a console that had some, I'm not going to say power, but, um, because I don't want to sound like a broken record. If they had a console that actually felt like they, gave a fuck about, what should be there. But this is Nintendo we're talking about, and they saw with the Switch. This is why I'm not happy that the Switch did well, is because Nintendo found out with the Switch that they could do the bare minimum or less, and people don't give a shit.
Yeah,
People will accept mediocrity.
it's like people made
So
it. People would make no excuses for the Wii U, but they'll make excuses for the Switch. It's really weird.
this is amazing, but this console is fucking trash. I don't care. I like it. But there's so many missing features. It doesn't even have a web browser.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. It's like, but it should though, because like you're missing basic things that should be there. Shut up. That's what it feels like. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's actually the case, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm just like I'm just not impressed with the Switch. All right, I just think that it's a fine handheld. It's kind of an underwhelming home console. There's some good games on it, but a lot of them run like absolute ass on the Switch.
Yeah.
Or they have design issues because they have to get it to run, on the console. I mean, that's the story of the Switch. It's just, oh, this is cool, but what's up with this?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I don't know. That's my opinion. I know some people are gonna get mad. They're gonna be like, "How could you say that?" Come on. Not everyone's gonna like everything everyone does. And if you're that type of fan that everything a company does you like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like everything can be critiqued because everything can be better. No matter how
Yeah.
good something is, it could always be better.
Yep.
All right? Okay? The only time you shouldn't critique someone is if it's the first time someone's having sex, because it's the first time. You don't know. But
Yeah.
if it's a commercial product and a company's been releasing products like this for years, you have the right to critique them and say, "Look, this is not going right, and you know what you should be doing." Like, there's no excuse for the Wii U having the online connection that it does. Like the
Oh yeah.
online issues. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't want to hear that. Oh well, it's actually because of this. Whatever. Go away.
Well.
That's how I feel. I know some people are gonna get mad when they hear that, but that's how I feel. I know people get mad. I know people are like, "Don't say that," but that's my opinion. Could I be wrong? Yes. But I also could be making a valid point.
Anyway. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to bring up before we close out the show?
Um, let's see. Starting August 8th, I will not be able to make this podcast, but I'll have my Saturdays free for a little bit, so I can
Oh, okay.
have a Saturday cast. So, yeah. That's about it. Um,
All right.
so the week of August the 21st, though, I will actually have a normal schedule, so I might be able to join your cast those days. But aside from that, good. That's it.
All right. Oh, that's cool. So I'll probably just do videos, do a video format instead of a live stream format. I'll just, you know, do things on certain topics, news stuff that I come across. Uh, then for that week, or maybe I'll just take a couple weeks off. Who knows? So thank you for everybody who watched live, or those who will end up watching the upload. Have a good rest of the week. Have a good weekend. And have a good life. This has been Project Console, episode 41. What's a Wii U? And we will see you next time.
Peace.